Hello everybody, I am Ben from Team Panic, and today we're going to be doing upgrades on 3 different ant weights that I have. So these upgrades I've kind of been thinking about for a long time, and I've talked about a couple of them on camera, but I haven't talked about this one. This one's a little bit special. So we're going to start with, this is a party. This is a party, as I said in last week's video, or in the last fight video that we did with This Is a Party, needs the upgrades pretty desperately. We need better wedges on the front of the thing, so that it can actually scoop in underneath people, and a bit of frame rigidity wouldn't go amiss either. And also I'm thinking about shrinking it in just a little bit, because there is a lot of extra space in the frame, and that is just all weight that we could then put somewhere else, like strengthening the frame or the motor mount or something like that. Also, at the moment, it's currently sporting one of its major upgrades, which is an asymmetric bar, so a single tooth bar design. These bars came in the other day and I could not help myself. I had to put it on this version of This Is a Party and give it a quick test run, and it does really, really well. So check out my Instagram. If you're not following me on Instagram, I post stuff on Instagram fairly regularly, and there's kind of a way that you can see the stuff that I'm working on outside of these videos. Yeah, I think it's a good spot to have a look at some things if you're interested in seeing more of what I'm doing. Anyway, so we're going to upgrade this guy. We're going to do some changes to the chassis, try and get these wedges more wedgy. And then, yeah, the actual asymmetric bar design is the other big upgrade there. Next, we have Downforce. This is just the chassis of Downforce. Basically, we just need to try and make weight with this thing. It's been a bit of a hassle, obviously. I'm going to have to drop the changeable front wedge design, because that's just taking up way too much weight. And I'm going to have to use the bigger motor to run the fan, because the smaller motor, I've done a couple of small tests here, managed to get the smaller motor with the fan on it working, but it then melts through the plastic as it gets too hot. So we've got to, yeah, go up to the larger motor and somehow make weight. So that's something we're going to try and do today. And then A Little Obvious, this is also just the shell of A Little Obvious. But A Little Obvious is getting a massive upgrade. This here is a 49 gram bar. Well, almost 49 grams. And when I counted it up, it was supposed to be a 50 gram bar, but, you know, CAD and the real world are always slightly different things. So yeah, it's a 49 gram weapon bar, and we're going to try and get that onto A Little Obvious. I've been doing a couple of test prints on this chassis just to see if I had weight before I ordered this absolutely monster bar, and I think I can get there. I need to shave about 5 more grams out of this chassis, and then we'll be good to go with the massive, massive bar. So that is going to be all coming up in this video. I think we're going to start with This Is a Party. I'm going to print a test case shell before we try and print the actual chassis in ABS, because it's really hard for me to print ABS. My printers don't do it very well. So I need to kind of print a test chassis for this, make sure that everything that we have is going to fit in that test chassis, make sure everything will be okay. And then once we've done all of that, we can probably print this in ABS and actually make the thing properly, including mounting up the carbon fiber arm that holds the weapon and all of that good stuff. All right, let's get started and have a look at that. So there we go. That is the new prototype chassis with actual components in it. And I don't know. I don't know what I think about this at the moment. Honestly, the new wedges look good. They look like if they get a little bit of sanding, they'll do the job that I want them to do. That is, get in underneath people and actually scoop them up and help with all of that kind of stuff. But I like my little pointies that we had going on in the last version. So it's going to be very sad to see all this stuff go. And yeah, I'm not 100% sure how I feel about this version yet. I think I'm going to need to see it in that green, just because it will look better in that green, I'm pretty sure. This whole robot just looks better in that green. But having said all that, everything in here does seem to fit well. The brushless motor will actually spin 90 degrees, so this whole cable will be in a different spot on the final version. And also, the hole in the back here is bigger in the actual motor mount we have, so it will actually be able to spin freely. Because that's the issue right now, is that the clamp or the C-clip is getting caught up in the back here. That's what's stopping it from spinning freely, but that's okay, because I can still mess with it with my fingers. Yeah, so there you go. All right, so I think the next thing we need to do is print this again, but in ABS this time. And without this motor mount, so that we can put a motor mount in. Then we're going to have to epoxy that motor mount in, and while that is happening, we'll move on to the next robot, which I think is going to be Downforce. I think we need to get a blue chassis for Downforce printed that we can have a bit of a test with, have a bit of a look at that, and then we'll see where we go from there. All right, and here we go. That is the new chassis for Downforce. I like the little wedge. Obviously, I have basically borrowed it off the new version of This Is a Party. They are basically the same thing, and I just figured that they would be, a decent-ish wedge, so I could try that out on here. Because trying to print this whole thing upside down leaves this edge a little exposed, and as it currently stands, it needs some sanding to get it all flat with the floor to actually make it work as a wedge. Yeah, but the big problems with this guy were weight and having everything fit and the battery being dead. And honestly, I'm not sure I've fixed any of those issues. If we turn this scale here on, and dump this guy on. Let's take a look. Where are we sitting at? Oh, 150 grams. Okay, so it's actually better. We have fixed something. We've managed to get the wedge on inside 150 grams, so that's good. But we still can't pack everything in here, and that's because this is the wrong electronic set. This is part of Annie Are You OK is in here. That's this receiver module at the top, and it's using just the wrong stuff. So we're going to fix this up, put it back over to the Arduino stuff, and it should be okay. Then I need to work out what I want to do, because I can either leave it in this blue chassis, which is just PLA, and yeah, find a way to kind of print a top plate for it or something so that all the wires aren't exposed, and hope that by changing over and getting rid of all these plugs that we save a bit of weight. The other option is to print it in ABS. If I was going to print it in ABS, I might actually change this front wall and print the wedge as a separate part and then kind of acetone glue them together. That might work and would probably help it save a bit of weight. I'm not really too sure what I'm going to do with this thing yet. I might, try and resolder the electronics that go in here, the Arduino ones, because they've actually got all the wire lengths right and everything for it. So I might try and resolder that, put those in and see where we're sitting weight-wise, because yeah, we might actually even be able just to use this as is and just sand this wedge down a little bit and it should be okay. We don't really care too much about this wedge because if it gets hit by a spinner or anything, there's literally just empty air in here. So this wedge can get completely annihilated and there's nothing really else going on inside the robot. So it doesn't have to be a strong material. It's kind of what I'm trying to get at here. Yeah, like I said, I think we'll solder up the electronics for this one and try something else. While that's happening though, we might have a bit of a look at A Little Obvious and see the next chassis design for A Little Obvious that hopefully gets in that massive, massive bar. Now also, just before we do that, I want to kind of point something out to you guys and a little bit about robot design in general. Sometimes it's the things that are seemingly the simplest that take up so much time. This guy, this time round, is that exact thing. So between this video and the last video I did on this, we are at, I think, six chassis? Yeah, 6 chassis. This is just all sorts of testing to try and get all the electronics in, keep the weight down, keep the fan on and in the middle of the thing. Obviously, this chassis and this chassis have the bigger brushless motor because all of these other ones that have the little brushless motor, they basically burn the brushless motor, or at least get it hot enough that you can feel the heat through the screws, which means it's going to melt through this plastic T-piece at the top here, which is really not good. But yeah, so I'm on iteration 6 of Downforce already, and then you've only seen really 2 or 3 of those on camera. So this is a little kind of behind the scenes of sometimes how much design iteration these type of designs take. And you know, this one I thought it should be pretty quick and easy because I wasn't designing a spinner. All I needed to do was sit this motor inside a shroud and everything would be fine. Yeah, no. All right, anyway, that's enough about this guy. Let's move on and get a little obvious out here. See if we can make weight with that massive bar. Oh, and this guy makes me really happy. The fact that everything still fits inside the chassis and the big, huge bar fits on the front of this is really good. Obviously, I'm going to need a top cover, and there are holes down here to kind of finish off a top plate for. I might just kind of mess with the dimensions just a little bit going into the final print, because it would be nice to have a little bit extra space in here just so this battery fits in a little bit better, I think. And maybe I'll raise this back wall up just a notch so the battery's a little bit less exposed. But then again, the weapon is going to sit over top of the battery. Now, the other thing is that this motor is not sitting perfectly flush with this housing that it's supposed to be in, and it's currently just touching the floor as it spins, which isn't a bad thing, but also isn't a good thing, because it won't spin up to full speed like that. However, we can just put little dobs of hot glue or something in under the front wedges, and that will raise the front edge up just enough to stop us from hitting the ground. The big thing here is going to be weight. So let's take a look at how we're sitting fully loaded like this, because that will tell us if this is even feasible. If we're way too far over, then the ABS print is not going to be able to save us. So let's take a look at this. 147, yes! Ah, that's insane. That is 147 grams, and 48 of that is the weapon bar, which means there's 100 grams total in wheels and motors and electronics and ESCs and everything else is less than 100 grams. That's crazy. That is so good. All right. So now I need to go ahead and print off an ABS version of this. I might tweak this. I might tweak just the back section just a little bit so everything fits in a little bit nicer. Other than that though, that's crazy. That's got not 140, a 49 gram bar on it, and it's making weight. Yes. But so like I said, we're gonna go print an ABS chassis of this, but in the meantime, the glue is probably dried on the new version of This Is a Party, and we've probably also finished the ABS print for Downforce, so we should have a look at rebuilding both of those. And there we go. Look at this. These guys are now almost fully upgraded. I just need to fix up the top plates for a little obvious. And this is a party, just because at the moment, top plates are just sitting here on this is a party, and a little obvious doesn't have one at the moment, which means that wires can get in the way of the weapon, which is not a good idea. I am so happy I managed to get this weapon into weight, though. That's insane. This thing is probably going to destroy itself, to be perfectly honest, but it's also probably going to destroy something else in the process. That's what we wanted to see out of that for sure. Also, I need to attach the front wedge to this guy, because I realized I don't have any acetone in the house, because I don't print with ABS all that often, so it's not something I just have lying around. But I will pick some of that up, and we'll have that ready to go for the fights. Now, speaking of fights, you will see these three guys fighting in next week's video. That will be the fight breakdown for the three of these. So if you can't wait for that, well, hopefully you can. Just a little bit longer there. Like I said, they will be ready and fighting next week. So yeah, there you go. That was a lot of work for me to put in 1 week. I hope you guys have enjoyed that one, and I will see you in the next video.